Navajo is the second most populous area in the United States, occupied by Native American people who speak the Apashean language, with about 300,000 individuals living in Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. A code talker was a military recruited person during wartime who conveyed a private message on the battlefield using a tribal or native language to transmit the information. Code talkers were first used during World War I and were successful. Many Navajo people lived a predominantly traditional life around the 21st century, speaking the Navajo language, practicing the religion, and traditional forms of a social system. Volunteering in the armed services was considered part of their tradition. In practice, they created a Navajo Code during World War II. Navajo Code Talkers was a name given to the American Indian U.S. Marine fighters. They were used to send a secret code to convey sensitive information on the battlefield using their indigenous language, one of the most complicated languages to learn. The reason for generating this idea was because every code American soldiers tried to use, the Japanese troops and the rest cracked. Therefore, Navajo Code Talkers themselves created a code based on their language, something that facilitated the conquering of all battles they faced with this code trick. Many lives were saved as the code played a vital role in winning the fight. In October 1918, the first ever known use of code talkers occurred when about 19 Choctaw men working in France during the Meuse-Argonne offensive were put to use on the telephone communicator. The trained Choctaw soldiers were placed on the front line on the battlefield to convey the message using their native language, which confused their enemies. The test was practical because German soldiers could not break down the Choctaw language, even though they were listening by tapping their telephone lines. The code gave U.S. troops an easier task to edge past enemies, as it was one of the fastest means of communicating, faster than the machine, and it was the safest. There are various facts about the Navajo Code Talkers, including the distinctive features which make them stand out. They were involved in everything: war, danger, patriotism, and espionage. Some of their facts include: the Navajo language's complexity favored its effectiveness. It was unwritten, and very few non-Navajo people, about 30, could fluently communicate with it. The trick became influential in tackling the enemy, which won them the war. There were two significant classifications of tribal codes, Type 1 and Type 2, which made it difficult for the German and Japanese soldiers to break down the message. In both world wars, the Amerindian people were used for coded messages. Over 50,000 American Indian people, both males and females, were involved in both wars. Choctaw soldiers and Navajo Code Talkers in World War I and World War II, respectively. The military used indigenous or native languages in both world wars to convey the secret information. The American military first used the Amerindian languages during World War I, though the practice was not widespread. A World War I veteran, Philip Johnston, instilled the idea of the Navajo's unbreakable codes in World War II against the Axis powers, Nazi Germany, Italy, and Japan.